Hello and welcome. This is the movie discussion pocket dimension where time does not exist, and the only thing that matters is film. This is Cole speaking, along with Jay, of course, and we are back for the second part of our latest series. This is the I don't know if we ever came up with like an official title for it. It's like the British crime series, I guess we go for. Focusing on I think mostly British-made films, and of course focusing on crime in Britain. Our first was a little different. It was a British-made film. It wasn't specifically British crime, though. It was kind of an international thing. It was the Day of the Jackal. And today, this will be one that focuses on real-life crime in Britain. The Rise of the Footsoldier from 2007, which chronicles the life of a real-life criminal in London and Essex, Carlton Leach. And back when we were putting together the list of possible candidates for this show, Jay put this up, and I did not recognize it. I did not know this movie. I hadn't heard of it, and it actually has multiple sequels, and even more prequels are in the works. I looked up; some of the characters are getting their own prequel movies. But no, I hadn't heard of it. But when did you see it?
It's probably been about a decade ago. I think someone may have recommended it to me. Yeah, I think that's how I saw it.
Right, it came out in 2007 and had a sequel a couple years later, and then the third one I think is like 2015.
I haven't seen the sequels.
Yeah, I have access to them on the channel that I have a free preview of, which is how I managed to get this one. And said, yeah, let's do it. So I will check those out. The first two are about Carlton Leach. The third one is about one of the other guys. And then there's like two more, and they're also about other guys, and I think they're prequels talking about sort of their own rise, I guess. But interesting movie. Sort of co-directed by, I think, brothers. Was it Gilby?
Really?
Wilby? I lost the name. Shit, I should go back to it. So I'm sure. They had directed a movie a couple years after this that I hadn't seen, but I am familiar with, and I heard it was a pretty good movie. Yeah, it's Julian and Will Gilby. So I guess Julian Gilby is considered the main director, but he directed A Lonely Place to Die in 2010, which I have not seen, but I've heard of that one. Supposedly kind of a good one. I think it's another sort of crime drama type movie. It's about somebody like hiking in the Scottish Highlands and something. I don't know what happened. Yeah. Anyway, I heard it was pretty good. I wouldn't mind seeing it. But anyway, that was also Julian Gilby. But yeah, I guess he co-directed this with his I guess is his brother, something like that. But anyway, I guess Julian is the director of record. But I guess technically, it's a co-directing effort with Will Gilby as well. And starring, how do you say that? Is it Ricky Harnett? I guess it's Ricky. It's a different sort of spelling of Ricky. He seems familiar. I probably saw him in something. I know I've seen some of these actors, but I couldn't tell you what. But as Carlton Leach, who have started off as sort of like a football hooligan, when his rise was, from that into like the world of organized crime in Britain, which makes a lot of sense if you think about it, because the whole thing is you've got a guy who at first doesn't really have any real plans or any sort of focus. It's just, he's a guy that's good at violence, and it shows that if you're good at violence, that, people can find a use for that, which is
good
really
at fighting, and then basically he becomes like a bouncer or something, right?
Right, that's his end. That's how it starts. So, yeah, he gets hired by club owners to work the door as a bouncer, and has a pretty straightforward route into crime from that, because a lot of shady stuff goes on in clubs, like drugs, right? So it goes on to that, and it goes from there. And it's interesting because like the movie really does sort of show his rise, because it shows his evolution, because about halfway through he kind of moves on from the violence, even though he's still in a world of violence himself, but he sort of removes himself from it and just, gets down to the business side of it. So it does sort of show his growth and maturation, although it still does leave me with some questions. But
it's okay. So he's a bouncer. He does good at that, gets promoted to like the head door guy. he brings his buddies in, and they like do a good job. And then he gets hooked up with the crime guy, the guy that's is that Tony Tucker?
Yeah.
I forget the character's name, but
yeah, it's Tony. But yeah, and they start like working, like doing drug deals and stuff like that, and it grows up from there.
He's like hired to protect the drug package. So, and then just, I guess, slowly just gets his way into, the world of crime.
Yeah, the actor I'm looking at here, he has like a very British filmography. It's pretty funny. He had a role in 28 Days Later.
Oh, really?
One of the soldiers.
Oh, right, yeah.
But he's also done a few. I like that he's in a movie called Poof. But I recognize a few of these other ones. And most recently, he's a character on I think it's a popular show, the popular British soap EastEnders.
Mm-hmm.
So
I didn't know
he's been around. He's been around. It was still going as of at least a couple years ago. It might have stopped recently, but his credit for that is 2018. So, anyway, Carlton Leach, was a real guy, and as far as I know, this fairly closely follows his life. I'm sure there's probably differences, as there always are. Sometimes, events are changed a little bit. Sometimes you'll have characters. Sometimes a character either is based on somebody real, or sometimes they're based on like a combination of several real people. And sometimes it's even the other way around.
Yeah, you've got to glamorize
one person, but that makes it.
You got to polish it up a little bit.
So I don't really know. Yeah. But I mean, as far as I know, Carlton Leach was involved in the movie to a certain extent.
He's in the gym scene working out at one point.
Oh, okay, yeah, because he wrote an autobiography.
He's a huge guy still. He's still big, muscled up guy. I don't know. He's got it probably in his 50s or 60s now.
Yeah, he must be in his 60s by now. Because it said he was like 16 in like the late 70s.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So he could be, I guess, in his early 60s, maybe. Something like that. Wait, maybe I can get a date of birth on him.
But yeah, I looked him up on, I just did a search, and like he's got all kinds of YouTube videos, and he's definitely an intimidating guy. I wouldn't want to fuck with him.
Yeah. And of course, this movie doesn't, I guess, cover everything, because they did make a second movie, but I mean, it all leads up to like some murders that actually happened, and the movie like starts like that, right? It shows the aftermath of the murders, and then we flash back to the beginning to show how we get there. Which actually, spoilers, is like those other guys we mentioned, the Tony guy. Now I'm forgetting everybody's names.
Yeah, it's all the other guys except for him.
Pat. Yeah. Well, those three would have been Pat, Tony, and Craig. Craig's the younger guy. Tony is the guy that like gets him into it, and Pat is the really crazy, violent guy.
Yeah.
That's like constantly attacking people and doing stuff.
He looks like is it Vinnie Jones? What's the real intimidating looking?
It's like, I think, be like a prequel explaining his life.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Did I cut out? I was going to say, yeah. So it looks like they're going to make one all about Pat, and it's going to be like a prequel about his life coming up. Same
really
idea.
Really unlikable character, isn't he?
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of why I wonder why, like, they don't show enough of him even getting along with them, because, he's really upset by these murders. Like, he's so upset. Like, these were his best friends, but they don't really show him getting along with them. They mostly just show him saying, you guys are crazy and you have to calm down. And, like, he definitely doesn't like the kid. Like, Tony's the only one he really kind of liked. And yet, I don't know, it almost acts like he's just, maybe it is all about Tony. Maybe he didn't care as much about the other guys. I don't know. But I don't even know why he liked Tony. Tony's such a sleaze, but I mean, that's the whole point. I mean, when you're watching movies about people that have lived their lives as criminals, you're going to ask a lot of questions. It's like, why do, these people get along? Or like for instance, his second wife, why doesn't she leave him? Things like that. But I mean, that's what it's like in real life. People stay together. People, even though they see the worst of each other, for some reason they don't go their separate ways.
Yeah, he just roid rages on her all the time.
Yeah, because his first wife is pretty smart. Like, she's like, it's even before he's even done anything to her, really. He's cheated on her, and as she points out, like, you don't even put any effort into it. Like, I'm finding condoms in the goddamn car. Like, you're not hiding anything from me. And he doesn't have any defense to this, and then she's just like, I'm out of here, I'm gone.
Right.
And we don't see her again. But his second wife, who he meets when he's in the club, we'll get to that because it's kind of funny. Like, even after he does some roid rage stuff like that, like, even in their first fight where he does it, after he attacks her physically and says all these horrible things, she's like, how could you do this to me? And then she gets really weird because she's just like trying to egg him on, telling her to rape him, telling him to rape her.
Yeah.
Right. And then he can't do that. So he just storms out. And then she's like, come back. I'm like, what? Come back? And then she does stay with him, even though she's well aware of what his life is and everything. So
that's a volatile relationship there. That's not a healthy thing at all. But yeah, like you said, that's realistic though. There are people like that.
It is realistic. Exactly.
You know, people almost get off on it sometimes, you know, on the fighting.
Oh, I think so. Mm-hmm. I guess that's how these people sometimes find each other. I mean, it's a lot like killers and stuff like that. It's always amazing to me that they manage to find each other.
Yeah.
Like, especially back like before the internet. It was one thing if you're like some sicko and you're on like the dark web or whatever, and you're going to like these horrible forums where people are talking about chopping people up. I get it. Then you can find somebody. But I mean, before any of that existed, you know, you had people like hooking up like in the 60s and 70s and stuff. Like, what are the odds? And I don't know how you bring that up either. It's like, hey, you ever think about killing anybody? No, me neither. No, it's cool. And then, yeah, it's like, well, maybe. And then it goes from there. I don't know. But anyway, obviously there's killing in this movie. He doesn't kill anybody himself, does he? Not in the movie. Anyway. I'm not aware of him actually killing anybody. He definitely brutally assaults him. He brutally assaults some people. He tortures one guy horribly. But I don't think he kills him. And there are a few times he was going to kill people, like he didn't. Like the whole thing with the Turks, right? He was ready to commit murder there. But as far as I know, like, yeah, and I guess that's one of the things that's kept him out of jail, because I mean, he hasn't not really ever gone to jail for his crimes, as far as I know. He stayed out of prison. He's still a free man to this day, despite having so many criminal associations.
You know, the drugs that were lost from the Turks, it was their drugs, I guess.
Right,
we ever find out? We ever found out what happened?
He even says that in the narration. He says, we never found out. He said, I guess there's still some fucker out there that, you know, hopes we don't. But yeah, so I guess that's, again, just adhering to reality, that they never did find out what thing was there, who actually stole them or lost them or whatever. And that is really the thing that changes him. It's the thing with the Turks. Because before that, obviously, he was okay with hurting people and he was okay with breaking the law and all this stuff. But then to see the Turks so viciously interrogate his men, and then once they didn't get the answers they wanted from them, kidnap them and torture them, leading to one of them killing himself, you know, he, of course, goes ballistic, as you expect. And he's fully prepared to, like, murder them and start, like, a gang war that he knows he can't win. And it doesn't seem interesting that Tony's the one that talks him down, because Tony afterwards goes completely off the rails himself. But Tony's the voice of reason there. It's like, you know, you can't do this. You know, even if you kill these guys, there's more of them and they won't stop. They'll kill not just you, but everybody you've ever cared about and loved. That's how they do these things. And he does get through to him. But later, Tony's like a total loose cannon, just going around, like robbing anybody he feels like, and, you know, blatantly committing crimes out in the open. Like, I don't know. But at the time, Tony was actually calming him down and speaking sense.
Yeah,
but that is the thing that changes him, right? Because after that, you don't see him really actively involved in crime anymore. And the rest of the time, he's just trying to reel in the others. It's like, you guys got to stop this, or you know. Or at one point, there's some guy they were going to go over. It might even have been the kid that winds up shooting at them later. They're like, we're going to go get him. Do you want in? He's like, no, I do not want in. Like, I don't want to be part of this. So that's really what changes him, the whole thing with the Turks. Because after that, he's actually, and it is kind of refreshing in a way. And I know, again, it's not just a narrative; it's real life. Because a lot of these times when you watch these movies about like guys rising in the ranks and becoming criminals, there's a lot of these gangster type stories. A lot of them, they don't get any better. They just get worse and worse until like it's just self-destruction and they're dead. He actually does smarten up.
Yeah.
A lot of the times it's more like a Scarface situation, right? They just get crazier and crazier, more paranoid, and they take risks and do crazy things. And eventually either like other criminals kill them or the cops kill them or something like that. Whereas Carlton actually does seem to wise up a bit and start to be a little more sensible.
Yeah, I actually was thinking Scarface also about this one, but Tony, I think originally Tony was thinking about it from a business perspective, as far as like not, we don't want to lose this, supply chain or whatever from the Turks. But I think he kind of goes on, gets really bad into drugs later on, and Carlton, I think he's pretty much against drugs the whole time, except for steroids. So that may be one way why he's able to. He's not, crazy strung out on, cocaine all day long. So, and all these other guys are. So,
yeah, it's pretty funny. But the first time he does ecstasy, right? Because he's like yelling at the kid. He's like, "I don't do drugs." These aren't drugs, mate. These are love. You can do some love. And it's just so funny. He's like, "Well, fuck it. I'll take one." He's at the club, and his friend's just like, "How is it?" He's like, "Oh, complete rubbish. Feeling
Must
nothing."
Be a dud, mate.
But he's like to the music. And he's like, "Okay, yeah." He's like, "Oh man, I'm bouncing. I gotta go dance." And that's where he meets his second wife, very attractive girl.
Yeah, she is. He's like, "Must be a dud." And he's like, "I've known you since we were like 5, right?" He's like,
I fucking love you.
Oh, yeah.
It's true though. Like, every time ecstasy is brought up in movies, it always sounds so awesome. Because the whole thing, right? Like he had grown up in like the 70s and 80s, and he was a football hooligan. It was all about just beating the snot out of everybody, right? Yeah. It's crazy culture when you think of it. It still exists, maybe not as much today, but still exists for sure, right? You hear about these football riots. These guys just going into like crazy fights just because of football games. So he grew up with like, that all that hate and hostility and anger and stuff. And he was like, and he's just like, he's like, I don't understand this like generation, these kids. It's like, how come they're not going at each other? It's like, because they're all on ecstasy. They're all happy. They all love each other.
They're like paying the cover, no questions asked.
Yeah. They pay the cover. They come in. They dance. They have fun. They don't cause trouble. And it's it's foreign to them at this point. But
it's like a fucking license to print money, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, at one point, like they get in, like these guys. I mean, they're just not fist fighting. They've got like weapons. At one point he gets hit in the head.
More people don't get killed.
Yeah, man. With
somebody gets hit with like a brick. There's a brick.
Axes.
Somebody throws like a Molotov cocktail and it hits a car. Yeah. Luckily, I mean, it's pretty insane stuff, but it really did happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's another good movie.
I think it might be kind of surprising to some people that maybe don't know about how rough some of those places in England were and can be. I mean, I knew all about it because of like people like, it's funny. I think there's a Motorhead song in there, but like didn't Lemmy grow up in like what was the place he grew up in? It's gonna bother me. I'm going to look it up. But anyway, wherever he lived was like a really rough area. Might have been Liverpool. Liverpool's Liverpool's one of the tough places. It might not have been Lemmy. Same thing, like probably not as crazy, but a bit younger. But I'm sure that like where the Gallagher brothers grew up, that was probably a pretty rough place. You get the feeling. And that was in the 80s when they would have been like in their teens. So there were some really tough, rough areas in England that maybe over here we don't hear about as much or know about as much. But there was, like gang activity and violence and stuff, and less guns over there than a place like the States. But still, as the movie shows, some of the criminals, if they wanted to get their hands on guns, they had them. Because once you get into the second half of the movie, everybody's got guns, man. The Turks have guns. Various people have guns.
Another good hooligan movie is Green Street Hooligans.
Right, that really focuses on the football culture, and it's
Made a few
interesting too
sequels
because
to that
isn't
one,
it like
too.
it's like an outsider's perspective, right? Like, doesn't Elijah Wood play an American?
I think so.
Because
Yeah.
like I think he's an American that's either like living over there, and he gets like pulled into the culture, like something he would not have really known about. So that's kind of interesting. I've seen parts of the movie, not the whole thing, but yeah, that's an interesting movie.
I think Scott Adkins is in the sequel,
Oh man,
which I've seen. It's good too. It's not as good as the first one, but
I hope he still does a jumping spin kick in it, even though everybody's just like hooligans. He's still a guy that can do like crazy jumping spin kicks because that's his thing. It's funny. I just watched Undisputed 2,
yeah.
which is the one where he's the Russian guy in the prison that Michael Jai White has to fight. Those are enjoyable movies.
Yeah, it's a shame he never got to be a bigger actor. I think he's got he's got the acting chops and the martial arts talent to where he really could have been a big star.
Yeah, we talked about this before. It's like just the timing of his career just wasn't right. It was like when that stuff wasn't as in fashion, and
him and Michael Jai White too, man. They both should.
Michael Jai White's a really underrated martial artist for sure.
I mean, like Spawn. That was like his, the biggest thing he's done.
Yeah, that was his big break, and it's this awful movie.
He's the best part of it, though. I mean, he's not bad at all.
He's well cast. Like they pretty much nailed it. I mean, in 1997, you're going to cast that character. He's a great guy to go with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad. I mean, we've seen movies like, why can't that get the Judge Dredd? They made a shitty Judge Dredd movie in the 90s, but then they made a good one in 2012. Unfortunately, it didn't do well, so won't get any sequels, which sucks. But I'd love to see Spawn get the same treatment, right? Doesn't Spawn deserve a do-over? Let's give Spawn a do-over. We just did a new Mortal Kombat.
That's the kind of stuff we need to remake. Things that flopped the first time, things that didn't hit the mark.
Mm-hmm. I'm still bummed out about Judge Dredd. Isn't that a good movie? Dredd's a good movie.
Yeah, I
would have loved this. I would have loved to have seen that get a couple sequels. Because my one gripe about that movie is it's all set in that it's kind of like The Raid. It's all set in that big crazy building, which is good. It works. But don't you want to see a movie where he's out in Mega City 1? Like, I know I do. It seems really too bad that movie didn't do well. I saw it in theater. I did my part.
It was. It was. They were trying to do a sequel, and he even wanted to do it. Carl Urban wanted to do a sequel, but the studio passed on it.
Sucks.
I think that movie really gained a lot of popularity, like when it went to streaming, like on Netflix. I started hearing a lot of people talking about it more.
But, I liked it from day one. I saw it in theater, and I was really satisfied. I was like, yes, this is like Judge Dredd. This is the character. I read a lot of those comics.
I like the Stallone Judge Dredd, so I'm the odd man out here.
I enjoy it for being, a goofy 90s movie. I don't think it's good.
I'm not going to say it's good. I like it.
Yeah. That would be a good one to do a live commentary on sometime.
Yeah.
Of course. Speaking of British, of course, Judge Dredd is a British comic from the very famous 2000 AD, which is like the high point of British comics in a way, or where everything comes from. Like any prominent British artist or writer in comics started out, or at least had done a little bit of 2000 AD. Almost all of them. There's a few exceptions, but I think Grant Morrison didn't, and that's about it. Pretty much everybody else. But yeah. But getting back to this movie. I think. Yeah. Around London and Essex. I have to say, even though I've watched it twice, because I watched it last week and this week, I do get a little confused by the last job, the whole thing that goes wrong with the murders. I mean, Mickey is the same old guy that Pat's girlfriend or whatever wife ran off to, right? Because there's a part where after Pat has gotten out of the hospital after the kid shoots him, and then he's really lost it and he's gone crazy. So his girlfriend or wife or whatever leaves, and she runs to Mickey, I think, who's this old guy who had not really been shown. I think that was one of the problems, I think, for the movie for me. So, like, Mickey just shows up all of a sudden. They don't really show him earlier on. And I don't get why. It's just like, oh, Mickey's, some other criminal that they know. But he's older than them. And she runs off to him. And then isn't it Mickey, that sets them up and supposedly is the one who kills them, right? Because he has this whole thing where he says, because he's like a pilot or something, and he's going to bring in, he's going to use his plane to bring drugs into the country. And he's like, we'll do a thing where you guys come and rob me and the other guys on the plane. You'll make it look good. You'll knock me out or whatever like that. And that way we can split the profits. And it turns out to be a setup, even more so, because it turns out that Mickey has his own associates that are just going to lure them out there and kill them. Which, as far as we know, is what really happened. But the movie does point out that Mickey and the other guy that are in jail now to this day for the murders say they are innocent. They got arrested on the testimony of the other guy, the guy that drove, that fat guy. That's why they're in jail. And it is pointed out that he's a known liar and thief. So we don't know for sure that's who killed them, but that's what the movie shows. And what's interesting is the movie does show other possibilities, right? The movie shows, what if the cops killed them? And the other one was, what if they get killed by the guys that run Essex? They're a couple of brothers. I can't remember their name, but it's the something brothers are like the guys that run Essex. And the other possibility, it's those guys that kill him. And it's pretty sad. You have Craig crying, and one of the guys says, "Is like, it's like, try to have some dignity, son." He's like, "It's not so bad," and like blows his head off with a shotgun. But that one doesn't work because they're out of the car. We know for sure that they were killed in the SUV.
Right.
Like in the cop possibility, it shows them unloading them in the other one. But for maybe just to make it look different, and because they're saying we don't know if that really would happen, they have them actually lined up outside. But clearly they were killed in the SUV, because that's the very last shot of the movie is actually not in the movie. It's real life news footage of the SUV being taken away to be like examined by the cops or whatever.
Same one in the film. Same exact one. Land Rover, I believe.
Yeah, some sort of Land Rover. Some 90s model. Because, the movie starts like in like the mid, like 76 or 77 or something like that when he's like 16. And it goes to like 96.
Okay. So that happens in 96, the murders.
Yeah, it's not till the early 80s that he becomes that he moves into the club scene and starts being a bouncer. And it's not really until, I guess, the start of the 90s that he really ramps up like his involvement in criminal stuff. It seems like in the 80s, he mostly just did door stuff and sometimes did bodyguard work. But at some point, like in the early 90s, he started to like be kind of a boss himself, I guess, and I don't know, have more power and influence and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It is a rise, as the movie points out. I mean, he's good at what he does. You understand his rise. Like any boss he worked for, they all like him. Like nobody ever has a problem with him or anything like that. To the point where, that's how he moves into it, because he does such a good job at his first club that some other club owner like poaches him. It's like, I need you to turn my club around. And I guess he did.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I'm a little fuzzy on what happens there right around the climax of the film.
I think just the first time I watched, I wasn't 100% sure that was Mickey, but it is. So it's weird because like Mickey is not introduced. Mickey's only introduced as far as I can remember, and I did watch this just a few hours ago, when Pat's wife or girlfriend runs off. She runs to Mickey, and there's a part where like he's on the phone with Pat screaming and threatening him. And Pat's just like, yeah, and hangs up. And then she says, Pat's crazy. Are you sure you can like look after me? He's like, I've been around. I've been in this a long time. I know how this goes. And loud guys like him, they never last. And he's the one that, at least in the narrative of the movie, he's the one that takes him out himself.
Yeah.
Yet, and like I said, or not like I said, like I thought, should have said, it seems a little weird that like after he ranted and raved at him, shouldn't he be a little suspicious when Mickey offers him this great job? He's like, here, because he was going to make money, like according to the story he told, right? He was going to make money anyway, but he's like, no, I'll cut you guys in. We'll do it up. We'll do a fake robbery where you rob me, and that way we get all the profits. And he's not even suspicious of it. But I mean, I guess that's the kind of idiot Pat is.
Yeah.
And he really begs for his life at the end too, as most people would, even the tough ones.
Well, Jacob didn't.
Pat has just gone through. Pat has just gone through life. The score is overwrought. I don't know. I didn't really give a lot of thought to the score. I tell you, like I said, I noticed movie songs here and there. I remember there was a Motorhead song at the beginning, which fit perfectly for one of the big brawl scenes. I think the narrative could have been a little tighter is my problem, because I had, like I said, once you got into the second half, I started getting a little confused about some of the stuff. I feel like sometimes stuff was left out, maybe. As I said, it's unsatisfying to me that Mickey is introduced so late and then turns out to be like the kind of the thing that changes the whole movie. Because we don't really know what Mickey's like or anything. He just seems like a more calm, level-headed, experienced guy. Then it turns out he's completely devious and brutal. Although he does say something in the narration that it like maybe the community or the criminal community at large understood that those three were loose cannons and would have to be dealt with it in one way or another, because they were just going around just doing whatever they wanted, causing havoc. So I guess in that way, it's not that Mickey's so evil or devious. It's more of, again, he's sort of like the smart, pragmatic criminal. It's like these wild cards need to be removed. And so I'll take them out. So I wish he'd been introduced a little earlier. It just seemed weird. He seemed to come into the narrative awfully late, and we don't know much about him. And then he precipitates the main sort of action of the story, those murders.
Well, wasn't there one point where Craig murders this other woman's husband?
Craig, the young guy?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I remember he kills the dealer, because there's this whole thing where or is that the thing that you mean? Is that what? Because something gets Craig kicked out briefly. Is that what got him kicked out? Craig fucked up in some way, and they kicked him out. And then to get back with them, he ripped off this drug dealer, and that got back. Because remember, he invites this drug dealer over, drugs him,
right,
and shoots him up with all his own drugs and dumps him so that he can steal his money and his supplies. Look at all this stuff I got. I'm back in, right? And they let him back in. Does he kill anybody before that? I can't remember.
I thought he did.
I can't remember I can't remember. I thought he just got kicked out for being sloppy. I mean, he was the young guy of the group, and they kind of kicked him around a bit. But then he got really determined to get back in, and that's why he has that plan to rip off the dealer, which goes pretty well for him, and that does get him back in. And then they have that whole thing with the other kid, who they try to kill, and then he tries to kill them, fails, although he does shoot Pat. And Carlton helps him disappear. He's become so desperate. He's like, the only way for my family to be safe is for me to die. I don't have the guts to kill myself. You kill me. And Carlton doesn't kill him. He helps him get out of the country or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's right in the wake of that, after Pat gets out of the hospital, that they really go crazy. Because that's when Pat does the whole pizza thing, right? Although I have to side with him. I'm like, why couldn't he have more than 4 toppings?
Oh,
yeah, I was pretty sure Craig didn't kill anybody else, because the whole thing was he was sloppy and kind of a fuck up, and they kicked him out. But then he killed the dealer and ripped him off so he could get back in with them.
Yeah, the guy with the 2 guns, he was ready for him.
Yeah, that's the kid that he helped escape. Like, I mean, I guess he did okay, but at the same thing, he kind of totally botched it too, because even though he scared them off with the 2 guns after they attacked him, this was after he had tried to kill Pat and like failed. The gun like jammed on him or something. He like managed to shoot him like in the arm or something, but then the gun jammed and he had to take off with Pat chasing after him. You saw that Pat had a kid there too. These guys always do. Yeah. Carlton himself had a kid with his first wife. I guess he never saw that kid. And then he had a kid with his second wife, who I assume he saw because he still lived with her, but it's never really brought up. But you know, guys like that, they don't do a lot of fathering, right? They just go off and do whatever they want.
Out.
Yeah, exactly. They do the making, but they don't do the raising.
Yeah. Well, then they usually wind up either getting killed or going to jail.
Mm-hmm. That's what's interesting about Carlton. He never wound up in jail for anything he did. Like, not even like a short term. Like he said, like after he had that injury where he got attacked on the train, he said, you know, well, it's kind of a good thing that happened to me. I got out just in time because not only was it getting more serious, but the cops were getting more serious too. Like the cops used to just like break up the brawls, but now they were sending in undercovers and infiltrating, and they were handing out really heavy sentences. Yeah. And it shows them locking up that guy. He shows at the start that got the mustache. He was sort of like their leader, who I thought was interesting, but we don't see much of him, unfortunately. But he was kind of like maybe his inspiration for getting into it in the first place, this guy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so he throughout the movie, you see that he's had a tremendous amount of luck in a way. I mean, he suffers and stuff, but he gets horribly injured, but he does survive. And maybe it is the right time to get out of that. That leads to him. It leads to him, you know, getting the opportunity to work at the clubs, and from there, he acquits himself so well that he rises up. And then, like we said before, then when stuff starts to really get crazy, and he's about to like go nuts and try to get revenge on the Turks, Tony talks him down. And once again, he lucks out because even though it must have been really hard, he says, you're just going to have to walk away from this as much as it hurts. And he does. And that probably keeps him alive too, because otherwise he would have just started a war he couldn't win, right? And then, you know, by the time the other thing happens, he's not involved in that job either, so he doesn't get killed. So several times when other people are getting killed, he's not involved. So he's had a lot of luck in not getting arrested or killed. And I guess that's to this day, and that's why he lived to write an autobiography and why we got a movie out of it. But yeah, he is well cast. I like him. Like he's not like a big guy. He's only like probably like 5'10" or something, but he's, you know, he's pretty solidly put together. And he talks about working out in the gyms and using the steroids and stuff. I would have liked to have seen a bit more of that, even like the roid rage stuff, because he just seems to like get over it. Like what happened there? He just stopped, or he just learned how to control it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, well, didn't it end with him like, if anybody tries to come for me, and he has like weapons all over his house? And
yeah, I mean, he's still super paranoid because of the life he's led, right? Because like, yeah, by the end of the movie, he's not even. I don't know if they say it, but like he's like pretty much ceased criminal activity. Like he's gone legit, I think. As far as I know, I'll have to watch the second one and see what he does in the second one.
He wrote a book
because the second one like picks up like right after this one, I guess. Fine, yeah, it's like finds himself in a world of paranoia. So maybe he still is actually active. Maybe he still is actually active as a criminal when the movie ends. It's not really made clear. So I'll have to see the second one and see what he's doing. But they set it up well. That, yeah, he's super paranoid now, thinking that somebody could be coming for him, which is a really very legitimate fear. He's not too paranoid. He's kind of right.
Yeah.
Dangerous world they inhabit. Violence.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't what I was expecting in a way when I read about it. Although it's hard to say what I was expecting. I think I was just sort of thrown by how much he does change. You don't usually see that. Usually these movies sort of follow a pattern where they become so self-destructive that in the end, you know, they're either dead or in prison. This guy managed to dodge that. He managed to like wise up, which maybe I didn't see coming. Because at first he didn't really seem that smart or reasonable of a guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Like you wouldn't imagine that guy would be the one to stop, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you
But
see these other guys as like loose cannons. It's like, well, he was one too. Like you see him flipping out on people, including like his own girlfriend or wife or whatever. It's like he's lashing out all around too. But maybe it took seeing like a lunatic like Pat to realize like I can't be like that. Because I mean, Pat, ever since he's first introduced, is just like insane.
yeah. It's yeah.
And the
I mean, I
thing
guess it's
that
just,
was kind of, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I guess that's just part of his character, you know, is just the loose cannon. So, you know, always just off.
An interesting luck with Pat too, because he's committed all these crimes. People know that he does this and that and the other thing, but it's like him like blowing up at that restaurant that is where he's finally gonna see jail time. And he's gonna go like he's facing like 8 to 10 years for like 800 quid or something like that. It's like that's less than 100 quid a year, but he gets away. I love how his getaway driver was just some old geezer on a bike. Like, what's the story there? Because the whole thing is he goes to the restaurant with his girlfriend or whatever she is. And then he gets mad about the service charge, like attacks the restaurant, robs them, and is easily caught. And that's where he's finally going to go to jail for. But then, like when he's at the courthouse, he manages to escape and he like leaves the country for a little while. It's just kind of funny because you know that he's committed all these worse crimes, but that's the one he's going to go down for. But then he manages just to escape again. But he learns nothing, of course, and he just goes right back to being an idiot.
Yeah.
But the whole pizza thing does not get him sent because the people are so afraid of him that they won't like testify, I guess, right? Like there's like this lunatic, I'm not gonna tell the cops what I know. It's like, yeah, somebody else. Just imagine witnessing something like that. You're at a pizza shop and some guy comes in and like not only assaults like the staff, but like holds them down and like cuts them with like the pizza cutter. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, like cuts his nose off or something with a pizza cutter.
Yeah, he's doing something. You can see that he's got like a look of concentration on his face. He's trying to accomplish something with it.
Yeah.
He's a straightforward character. He told him on the phone that's what he'd do. It's like, give her her pizza.
Oh, yeah, buddy, okay. And he hangs up on him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's trying to show off to the staff. He's just like, this line is for adults over 12 or something like that. Like,
yeah, that's what he said.
You don't know who you're messing with. Yeah, the second one is called Reign of the General. So that seems to suggest that his criminal career did continue even after those murders. So I'll have to look into that because it's also on the Super Channel thing that I've got that I watched this on. So I will have to follow that up.
It's kind of amazing that someone could have that kind of violence and not do any jail time for it.
Yeah. Yeah, especially some of the stuff that he admits to, like the torturing that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, when the cops find that guy, he's like nailed to the ground with like 100 nails, like in his arms and his legs and everything. Ugh. It shows how dispassionate he could be. He's just like, business, got to torture this guy. Can't remember what it was over. Obviously, something to do with drugs or money, because that's what it all is.
Yeah, at one point, he shows him he's got this guy that he's, I guess, killed, and he's like in the dog's house in the backyard. Like this is when they've just gone off the deep end.
Right. Yeah, that's right too. I forgot about that. Where they're just at their house, just completely detached. It's a pretty funny scene when Craig gets kicked out for his fuck up and Tony goes after him. Their dialogue is just so funny. He falls out the window and it's like, you could have fucking killed me, Tony. And he's just like, you useless twat, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I've been calling you, why didn't you answer? And it's just like, I was fucked up. I was in bed. It's funny stuff. So there is a good undercurrent of humor to some of the scenes, despite the fact that there's a lot of brutal violence and real life tragedy going on.
Yeah.
Some of it is just so absurd, it is funny. And I like that bit. Then he goes next door, and I can't remember who is that the kid they were looking for later, the one that they do drive off, and he attacks with the guns. Remember they attacked that guy, his father. He's like, because we're looking for him, you Welsh cunt. Just toss him on the ground.
Chopper, yeah. Have you seen Chopper?
No.
You'd probably like that one. That's a similar type.
I found out there's a lot of these that I don't know clearly because I'd never heard of this one.
Well, Chopper's Australian, but it's similar in that it's a real guy. I don't know if he wrote a book, but he's just in and out of jail all the time. Like almost like Bronson, the movie Bronson.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like that guy.
I do know that one.
That's a great movie too.
Right, but yeah, I mean, he was going to, try to get revenge on the Turks, and Tony sort of calmed him down and told him, this isn't something you can win. It'll never stop. They'll kill everybody. Yeah, that definitely is the definitive turning point in the movie.
When it first starts, when they first start they put the truth serum in their neck. Carlton glances over and there's a gun, that he can reach that's like stuck in the wall or something, or like in the door.
Yeah, he planted it earlier. Like he knew they were going to come here, so he put it there. It's like insurance. A few times he thought about going for the gun, but he obviously doesn't do it.
But us as the audience obviously wants him to go for the gun because these are, assholes torturing his friends for no reason.
Something they didn't do apparently.
Yeah, right.
As his friend tells him later, after the second round of torture, where they torture them for 3 days, just brutally. It's the most brutal part of the movie when they show those highlights. He says, they didn't seem to realize that if we knew anything about that heroin, we would have fucking told them, like, what do you think we are? Which is true, but you can't really reason with people that torture. Because they're almost not, people that torture are almost never really doing it for the reasons they say they are. They're doing it because they want to torture you.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell them the truth or you can tell them lies, whatever. Talked about this before, but I just mean it's a way to show a hero and have them be tough, but not like damage them too much. Is whenever you have like a torture scene of like your hero getting tortured, in most movies, it's always it's not like it's a ineffective way of torturing people. It's, it's still torture, but it's always something that's not permanent. Or at least not permanent for as long as they're being tortured.
Yeah.
Like, let's say like I am some sort of operative and I'm trained to resist torture, right? I don't know. And so maybe that means I have a really high pain threshold and I can take what they can dish out. That's all fine. But the second they say they're going to start cutting stuff off me, I think I'm probably going to give it up. Because you know what? If it's cut off me, I'm not getting it back. So that seems like we don't need all these really, at least in most cases, it seems weird to me that there's all these really elaborate ways of torturing people. It seems to me threaten to take away something that is gone. Like your eye, your hand, instead of doing all this other torture, just simplify it. You don't even have to do anything to them. But again, because it comes down because they actually enjoy doing it, a lot of these tortures. They want to do those things. They want to inflict the pain. And maybe they'll do the permanent thing later. But, for the sake of, like, movies like in Metal Gear Solid, when you're getting tortured, you're just getting electrocuted a bunch. Snake's not going to lose anything. Now I realize I'm kind of contradicting myself because in the prequel, where the big boss, the original Snake, gets tortured, he does lose something permanently, although it's not what they mean to do. They do shoot his eye out, and that's how he has the eye patch and the rest. But that's by accident. That's not what they meant to do. But because the whole thing is, well, we can't have our hero getting tortured and like they cut something off him, like his foot or something, because then we don't have a movie or a game. Because now he can't be an action guy anymore. So yeah, whenever like our action guy is getting tortured, there's always something that he can come back from. And probably won't maim him too horribly because it's like, who wants to see that? But in real life, it seems like that's the most effective thing to do. In fact, just threaten to do it. Because you know what? 99% of the population has never been tortured before and is not about to stand up to it or even attempt to resist it. I know I fucking wouldn't. I mean, unless it's something like really important. Like, I don't know, like the safety of my family or something. I don't see what I would stand up to torture for. Like money, drugs, I will fucking tell you, man.
Right. But I think in that scenario, like with the Turks, it's like if they say, "Oh yeah, we took it," like they're immediately dead anyway. Like they're dead either way.
There's no right or wrong answer, right?
We're just going to torture you until you die, you know.
Because the whole thing is, right, the first time they don't torture them too badly. It's just a really harsh interrogation, right? They inject them with the stuff, they kind of smack them a bit and yell in their faces. But then, and Carlton's like satisfied, they don't know anything, let them go. They do let them go, but they're not satisfied. So then they kidnap them and then brutally torture them after that, and still don't learn anything. Because that's just how those kinds of people operate, right? It's like, well, we're still sending a message, blah, 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 which is always the really important thing in the world of crime. Just like Carlton says in the movie, like something like any sort of kindness would be seen as weakness in my world. So you just gotta be brutal all the time.
That's a really good quote too. I feel like I've heard that a few times before.
I can't remember exactly what point he says it at, but yeah, he does say it.
Yeah. You know,
and that's a universal thing too, right? Oh, sorry.
I was going to say the message that the Turks send, in my opinion, is don't work with the Turks.
Yeah, because if anything goes wrong, whether you're to blame or not, we'll kill you and brutalize you first. And they say we'll go out to your family, right? He says like you might care about like your kids and wives or whatever, but to us they're just flesh. It's like, wow, we get it. You guys are crazy.
Yeah, I remember when like they're outside playing with the kids at Carlton's house, and they take
pictures of them, right?
Yeah, and they send the kid over there with a Polaroid just to show they're watching them and they know where they are, you know.
Yeah,
that's terrifying.
I mean, it's another thing to really show the lines they're willing to go to, because I mean, in some criminal hierarchies, they do have like rules where that stuff is considered off limits. Supposedly, you hear about that with like Italian mafia and stuff like that. Is usually they say family, although they break it all the time, it seems. But they still seem to try to have their like code and rules, like leave children out of it or leave family out of it and stuff like that. And the Turks are willing to show like we don't give a shit about any of that.
Don't kill the Guma.
Yeah. I probably do enjoy British gangster stuff more than like Italian gangster stuff. Maybe just because there's so much Italian gangster stuff. You just get a little overloaded with it. It's not like it's not good. It's good. There's a lot of good, but I don't know. There's just so much of it. It's nice to see, other perspectives in other places, I guess.
I mean, there's not a lot of good movies though, right? I mean, there's a lot of them. Like, what? You name 5 of the good ones,
with like the traditional like Italian mafia. Yeah. So, I mean, some of them are like the biggest ever, like Godfather movies.
Like obviously, Departed. I guess Departed would be an Irish crime movie.
Yeah, it's Irish because it's like loosely based on Whitey Bulger. So that would have been Irish gangs in Boston.
I didn't realize that was based on Whitey Bulger.
Yeah, well, it's a combination, right? Like the plot is based on the Chinese movie Infernal Affairs, but then since it's in Boston, they loosely based Jack Nicholson's character on Bulger. So the character's based on Bulger, but the events are not things that happen to Bulger. Although being an FBI informant is absolutely 100% true. So they did tie that in, because that's one of the reasons why Bulger stayed out of jail for so long. And even the cops themselves didn't know this; they weren't happy. That's why nothing could stick to him, because the FBI would go over their heads and squash it sometimes when they picked him up on things, and they didn't know. It came out way later that he was an FBI informant, and that was one of the reasons he was allowed to keep going, because they used him to get to other people. People still think he was murdered in prison. I don't know what to think. If he was, who cares?
Yeah, really. What about what's the one with Johnny Depp?
Donnie Brasco?
Donnie Brasco. You like that one?
Yeah, that's a real life one. We talked about this, I think even as recently as one of our last shows, is like, I always try to think of myself as maybe I'm not brave, but I like to think I'm not a coward, and I like to think in certain situations I could do okay. Like if I had to be a soldier in war, that I could like keep it together, things like that. But the one thing I know I'm not brave enough for is undercover work. Man, like people that go undercover, that is like whether it's like in a criminal gang or a terrorist organization. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, that's just have to, one.
And that's also part, of course, of not just Johnny Brasco, which is based on a real life guy, but of course, it's a big part of The Departed, right? It's being undercover, being deep undercover. Like, I'd lose it, man. Just having to lie all the time to keep yourself alive, and knowing just like how bad your death will be if they find you out, because they won't just kill you; they will kill you as like terribly as they can think of how, because they want to make an example of anybody that does this to them.
It's like
Donnie Brasco. Yeah, he's based on a real guy.
The Raid 2.
We haven't seen in a long time.
Didn't in Raid 2 he went undercover?
Yep, same deal.
So he was like completely undercover, no contact with his family or anything.
Yeah, right.
It's like the line between the actor playing and who you really are becomes blurred, the longer you're in there, I can imagine.
Right, and they talk about it a lot in both Infernal Affairs and The Departed. Like, it's a big deal, right? There's like a good scene in The Departed where DiCaprio is, he's talking to the psychiatrist that at the thing, and he's just saying, like, it's like you're sitting there in the car next to a murderer, a mass murderer. He's talking about I forget that actor's name, but he's a good actor. In fact, I just recently watched him in something. Anyway, he's talking about that, and he's just like, your heart is going like crazy, but you can't show it,
Yeah.
So true. He also has that whole thing where he says, "Oh, I went out, didn't I?" Mm-hmm. He also does that thing about how his hand is steady, and I give DiCaprio credit because he really shows it. I can't do that. I'm the opposite of that. I'm not steady at all. I can't do stillness. I'd be the world's like worst surgeon. I don't think I'm totally shaky, but I can't do steady. I know I'm moving. I can't. I don't know how he does it. But I was thinking of the guy that's one of Jack Nicholson's lieutenants. Ray Winstone. Love him. He's got to be in some British gangster movies.
Oh, yeah, he is.
But, yeah, he's a really, really good actor. I always get him mixed up with another guy. What's he been lately? Ray Winstone. That can't be the only gangster movie he's in.
No, he was in Sexy Beast.
There you go. And he's a major character in a movie we've done on here. We did The Proposition. He's Captain Stanley in that.
Yeah, Jacob telling us the same thing. And yeah, The Funeral is a good one. That's Chris Walken. I know is in there.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it. I know we talked about it because we did the other one movie by him. We did Bad Lieutenant. And we were talking about the movies he done. I still haven't seen it. I've heard it's very good. But sometimes, even though they're not even that similar, but just because it happens in my mind, I get Ray Winstone mixed up with Brendan Gleeson.
Oh, yeah.
Of the two, I probably like Brendan Gleeson even more. He's a really good actor. He's like the only reason I was watching that Mr. Mercedes show, because I've pretty much given up on Stephen King adaptations, but he's the main guy, and I like him. So, he's in a really cool, quiet little movie I might have mentioned to you before called Calvary that you might like, where he plays like a priest. It's like he's a priest, and he gets like a note from somebody who says that they're like one of his congregation or parishioners, whatever the word is, and that he's going to kill him. Uh-huh. And then he spends the day like visiting the various people that he knows, like doing what he's supposed to do, knowing that one of them is probably the one that's going to kill him. It's a really interesting movie.
Wow. I have to go check it out.
Just a short little thing. It's from 2014. He's an interesting kind of priest too, because he actually has a daughter. Because he became a priest like late in life. So some people are like, how come you have a daughter? But that's actually the first movie he did right after The Grand Seduction, which is another movie I would totally recommend. It's a Nova Scotian, as it's a pretty authentic Newfoundland movie. It's a little comedy with Taylor Kitsch.
Okay.
I probably told you about it before. It's like there's this little tiny fishing village in Newfoundland, and the town is pretty much dying, which is pretty much what it's like out here. And it's funny. So no, I don't live in a place like this. But the point is, I'm not far. I don't have to get in my car, and I don't have a car. I don't have to get in a car and drive very far to find a place like this in Nova Scotia, and the same thing in Newfoundland. But anyway, and there's the possibility of they're going to like build a factory, and they really want it to be in their area so they can get jobs. Mm-hmm. But they need to have certain requirements for them to do it. One is they have to show that they have a population that's big enough, and they don't. And the other is they don't even actually have a doctor. And at the same time, Taylor Kitsch is like some hotshot doctor in Toronto or something like that, but he gets like caught at the airport with cocaine. And I don't even remember how it works exactly. But anyway, he winds up going out to that place for some reason. I can't remember why. Let's see here. The agent. Okay, so the agent that finds him was the former mayor of the town. So he makes a deal to overlook the possession, to go out there. So the whole thing is they're trying to convince him to stay and live in the village and be like their doctor because they really need it for it. And it's called The Grand Seduction because a lot of it is like they have to trick him and people and stuff. It's a cute little movie. Plus, there's not too many movies in Newfoundland, and of course, Brendan Gleeson's not a Newfoundlander, but he does a really good job with the accent and everything. But it's a cool movie, and I like Taylor Kitsch.
Mm-hmm.
And legendary Canadian actor Gordon Pinsent is in that. I didn't meet Gordon Pinsent, but my mother did. He's got to be so old by now. I don't think he's dead, though. Look him up. Gordon Pinsent's still alive, and he's 90. He's actually from Newfoundland, too. Anyway, as far as like Canadian TV and movies go, he's like the man. He's like basically like Christopher Lee or something. Just ridiculously prolific.
Right.
Hey, he's 90 years old, still going strong.
Oh, that's great.
But anyway, he's in that movie too. Been acting since the 60s. I remember what some of the TV shows he was on. All right, he was the voice of Babar on the Babar show. Did you ever watch that cartoon, Babar with the elephants?
Oh, yes. I think that came on HBO here. I never really watched it, but I'm aware of it.
I watched it on Family Channel when I was a kid. Apparently that had like quite a few Canadian voice actors. He was on Friday the 13th, the series. But anyway, really cool guy. Can't believe he's 90, but it makes sense. So don't know how much longer we'll have him, but he's sort of a national treasure. But yeah, I've heard of that, Jacob. Yeah, I like Ray Winston a lot too. But I shouldn't confuse him with Brendan Gleeson, but I do. Brendan Gleeson's actually younger than he looks. Like, you would swear Brendan Gleeson's like at least in his 70s. He's only 66.
Wow, he does look older than that.
He's just one of those guys that's always looked older. He's always had like a white beard. He's had a white beard for like 35 years. He's actually Irish born. Yeah.
Have you ever seen Scum?
No, I was just commenting on that I'd like to. He's right. That is also Ray Winston.
That's a good one. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I liked it a lot.
And he's not slowed down either. Frankie. What is Frankie? Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this movie's kind of, straight to the point. Not really a whole lot to go on.
Right. It's not like it has like a particular theme or imagery or anything like that to talk about like we can with other movies. But I mean, I just enjoy, and that's why we're doing the series really, is sort of getting a look at that culture that, people over here would not be as familiar with. I guess, and I'll enjoy that. That's what makes even the serious scenes funny to me, is like, the way they talk and some of their slang and stuff like that. Like at the part where they go to the guy's house and threaten him, and remember, like when he's egging him on, telling him to burn him with a cigarette and stuff like that. He's like, remember all the ag he's caused you. I assume ag means like aggravation, but it just sounds really funny in the moment where they're screaming at him. It's like, all the ag. That's right, the ag. I don't know, stuff like that. Stuff like that.
It's got some great slang in it. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. They're always, you daft cunt.
That's my new
Brits love it.
My new EDM band is going to be called Daft Cunt.
Nice. Yeah. I always remember how much I enjoy saying the word, like in that way. I've talked about this before. It would be a complete turn off to be used in a sexual way. I don't want a girl talking about her cunt. That's gross to me. But it's a good insult. I think that's a good insult.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've seen like porn and stuff where girls like say that, and I'm like, ugh, that turns me off. I don't know.
Put it in my cunt.
Yeah, that does not work for me. But no, it's a good insult. The Brits and the Aussies and stuff love to throw it out there.
Yeah, they're a big fan of it. It seems like that one's kind of off limits now.
Like every time like Michael Bisping is interviewed or on TV, I expect him to say it. I give him a lot of credit for not. He just seems like he probably says it a lot. So good on him for never saying it on air.
Oh yeah. He looks like he would fit right in this movie.
Oh yeah. I saw him in a movie recently. And Scott Adkins. I don't know if you got around to it yet. I know you'd like Triple Threat.
Mm-hmm.
Big action movie. Scott Adkins is the bad guy. Michael Bisping's one of his bad guy crew. But like the triple they're talking about is Tiger Chen. I always forget his name, but we talked about him. The guy who's the main guy in the Raid movies, and Tony Jaa. It's a really good movie, like, pretty standard plot, not going to blow your mind or something like that, but some really good fight scenes. They really build up Scott Adkins. Scott Adkins is like a martial arts god in the movie. Like, he's just like destroying. It takes like all three of them to like bring him down. I was really most impressed by Tiger Chen in that movie, who is a lot older than I thought. He's like 46 or 47 or something like that already. But I really enjoy. They're all good in the movie, but I really liked his fighting style. But yeah, that's a good movie. That's I think just on Netflix. It's a pretty simple, straightforward movie. But yeah, Michael Bisping's in that as one of the bad guys, one of the mercenaries. Is what. Yeah, it's like Scott Adkins is like the head of these bad mercenaries and blah blah blah. Not much of a plot, but a good movie.
Yeah, I've seen Bisping in a few things, playing that type of gangster role.
I mean, he managed to still have a very active fight career despite that. Because, I mean, you look at somebody, remember Kung Lee? Like, Kung Lee might have had a really good fight career, but he chose to do movies and pretty much stop fighting. I mean, I guess that's fine, except that, he never really did. If he was trying to break through as a star, that wasn't going to happen. I think he would have been better served just as like a professional fighter, but, to each their own. Because I think he could have done better. And, some of the losses he had late in his career, maybe it could have gone differently if his focus was 100% on fighting instead of, doing stuff with movies. I mean, give credit to GSP. He didn't do movies until he was like retired.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen Falcon and Winter Soldier, but he's back. He's back in that.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. Batroc. I mean, again, he's not like a major character, but he's in a couple episodes as Batroc again. It's funny how things line up like that. Like most people who don't read comics or anything would have really had no idea that one of Cap's like classic enemies is this Algerian guy called Batroc the Leaper, who's like a master of savate. It's like not too many people would know that or think of it. So then when they make the second Captain America movie, it's like, hey, there's this French-Canadian mixed martial arts star. He could probably fit in pretty well. Like, it just seems to line up so well. Because I'm not saying you couldn't have an actor like fake an accent or a stuntman, but I mean it's cool. Like he's actually French, although not Algerian, but he's a French Canadian. He can speak French, and he is a legit martial artist. He's not a savate guy, but that doesn't mean he couldn't do some savate moves, which he does do in the movie. Yeah, that's a really good fight he and Cap have at the start of that movie too, on the boat. That's at the start of the second one, the Winter Soldier, where Batroc, his terrorist group, has taken a bunch of hostages on the boat, and Cap and Black Widow and a team get sent in to stop them. They have a good one-on-one fight at the end of that. Yeah, cunt is considered a really strong, dirty word over here, whereas they'll throw it around with abandon in other countries. And I'm not saying we shouldn't. We should all just throw it around with abandon. I'm just saying I do get a certain satisfaction out of saying it. I've taken it, and it's more in the privacy of my own home anyway. It's more I take satisfaction in saying it when I'm playing a video game and I'm angry at some character that's beating me up or something. It's not even to say I wouldn't actually say it to another person. Unless it was a joke. I don't think I would. It's hard to imagine in a real life situation where I'm calling somebody a cunt.
It seems
outside
to be
of it being a joke.
Something that women have taken, you can't say that anymore. That's the end all be all worst thing to call a woman, right?
Right, because it's bitch is bad enough and cunt is even worse. Whereas, yeah, the way that it's used and the way I think about it now is I don't even throw the gender into it, right? Call anybody a cunt, this guy, her, whatever, I don't think of it as the C word, the worst thing you can call a woman. I think of it as a fun curse word you can just say to anybody in any context.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. But no, not a fan of women trying to use it in a sexy way. Not sexy.
Ooh, let me see that cunt.
Oh man, but you were right. You were so right. Getting reported for dropping truth. Can't handle the truth.
Yeah. Twitter.
Into it, but I was talking to Jay before the show. Twitter was stressful to me today because a lot of my feed was people. We're not going to get into a discussion on God, no. But because a bunch of people are arguing about the current situation in Palestine and Israel, just these long threads of people going back and forth on it. It's this is not a good place to debate such a serious, complicated issue, but people are gonna.
Yeah. That is Twitter.
I need to see 28 Days Later again. Sorry, just looking at the list of movies that people are in. I haven't actually seen it in a long time. Definitely an important movie for when it came out, right? The zombie genre was pretty much dead when it came out.
Oh man, yeah, I love that movie. The first one.
I mean, it's not a pure zombie movie, but it's in the ballpark, right?
I think it does kind of end with a whimper. I think the third act it kind of falls apart a little bit, but the first half, man, it is awesome.
It's intense. It's really intense.
Speaking
of actors from over there, what the hell has happened to Cillian Murphy? I haven't seen him in anything in 100 years.
He's in Quiet Place 2.
Well, I'm not really interested in that, but that's good to know that he's in something.
He did that.
The first one.
What was that? The Netflix show they did for. He was on that for a long time.
Peaky Blinders.
That's it. Yeah.
Another very British thing. But I mean, he was in 28 Days Later, and then he was the Scarecrow in Batman Begins, and I thought he was posed to be a really big star.
I would have thought so too.
And I don't know if maybe he's in Inception, I guess, which I haven't seen, which is a big movie, but he's not in as much as you would expect. And and that could all be choice, right? Sometimes these actors, they don't take every fucking role in the world. They they concentrate more on what they're doing. And he seems like the kind of guy that maybe focuses, has a different focus. So I wouldn't want to say like, oh, his career sucks or something like that. Like maybe he's done everything he wants to do. I don't know. I'm just saying I really thought I was going to see him more. A little disappointed. I mean, he's only like in his 40s. He still has plenty he can do. Just saying. Red Eye was a pretty like kind of underrated movie, right? He's the bad guy in Red Eye.
Yeah.
I need to see that again too. I haven't seen that in at least a decade.
Yeah, like 28 Days Later came out. Then I think was he in the first Batman movie, or he was in Dark Knight, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's in the first one. He's Scarecrow.
He's in the first. Is he in both?
Yeah, Batman Begins.
Oh, Batman Begins.
Well, he has like he's in all three, but he's only the first one is like a substantial role, and in the second one's like it's more like just like brief scenes. Because in the Dark Knight, he's in the beginning because Batman is like, catching him and his gang. So it's like the opening scene and you don't see him again. And then in Dark Knight Rises, you see him working as like in like the weird like kangaroo court that like the people set up after Bane takes over the city. So so he's in all three, but he's most prominent in the first one where he's one of the major villains. Very interesting take on Crane.
And he was in, I saw Red Eye, and then I forgot about Sunshine. He did a bunch of stuff like right around the, early to mid 2000s.
Yeah.
And disappeared for a little while, I guess.
Yeah. I guess from 2010 to 2020, it's pretty sparse stuff. Like Inception.
Peaky Blinders, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, Peaky Blinders only started in like 2018. So before, 2015. I'm confused. So what? There's two separate. I don't know how these British series work. So maybe I guess it started in 2015 and they did another one in 2018. I don't know. So yeah, maybe that's what it was. Just like, isn't Breakfast on Pluto? Yeah, in Breakfast on Pluto, he plays a transgender person. So nowadays, would everybody be upset about that? Because to my knowledge, he is not transgender. Nowadays, I guess it probably wouldn't be acceptable for him to play that role, but I don't know.
Acting.
Speaking of which, in British movies, I also just watched, I hadn't seen in a long time, The Crying Game again. Good movie. Of course, the transgender character in that was a real transgender person, so
canceled.
Not problematic there.
Yeah, Free Fire. I'm not familiar with Free Fire.
I don't know either. It's not Cillian Murphy, I know, because I'm looking at his stuff.
Yeah, he's in it.
Is he? Huh. It's not on his list here. Okay. So the filmography I'm looking at is... Oh, wait. You know why? Yeah, so it's not as sparse as it looked. I was looking at things he got awards for. So, yeah, he did more than I thought. Yeah, Free Fire 2016. Yeah.
I'll have to check that one out.
So, yeah, he's in more stuff. Oh, he had a really small role in Dunkirk. But, yeah, so he's been more active than I thought. He's in Tron Legacy. Oh, yeah, he is in Tron Legacy. That's right. It's just one scene. He's just like some asshole in a boardroom. So yeah, he has done more than I realized. I was looking at a list of just like awards. It's like he hasn't done that much at all. But no, he's been around, yeah. Although still, I do think my point stands in that I thought he'd be in like some more like really big movies, like he did do Inception. But I thought there'd be more stuff like that. But anyway, I'm a fan. And I probably will eventually see a Quiet Place too. Like I didn't like the first one, but. Well, I mean, I want to do that for this show, Jacob. So hopefully we can find it. Because that's one that I really want to do for this show. Because it's considered one of, like, the best of this subgenre we're talking about. Like, when you talk about British crime, that's often ranked right up there at the top. So I would really like to be able to find it and be able to do it as part of this series. So hopefully we'll be able to give you some more detailed thoughts on that when the time comes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely one we discussed about doing. I don't know if we'll have a chance to, but we may get to it.
Get Carter's there too. There's another sort of classic. You know, looking here, he's in Cold Mountain. I've never actually seen Cold Mountain. Is it good?
Is that Renee Zellweger?
Yeah, it's the Civil War.
It's a good one.
It got a lot of hype, and guess what? Brendan Gleeson's in it, who I was looking up. So, and Ray Winston, Brendan Gleeson and Ray Winston are both in it at the same time. Now I have to see it because I was talking about how I mixed them up. They are both in this movie. Yeah, so this movie got a ton of hype when it came out in 2003, and it just wasn't on my radar. I didn't see it, but I knew it. Yeah, it was a big deal though. It got a lot of hype, a lot of acclaim. Jude Law, Nicole Kidman, Renee Zellweger, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Natalie Portman, Donald Sutherland, all over the place. Yeah. Plus, it's considered an epic, and I'm a big fan of epics. Well, when they work, although when they don't work, they're kind of fascinating too. But anyway, that was a big movie. That was a big deal. I remember Saturday Night Live had sketches about it and stuff, or at least one sketch. That was a big movie. A lot of people won awards. I got to see that at some point. Especially that Brendan Gleeson and Ray Winston are both in it. That blows my mind. For some reason, Jack White is in it. Because he thought maybe I can be an actor. I don't know. Don't like Jack White at all, by the way. And I don't mean as a person. I don't have any problem with him as a person, as far as I know. But yeah, his music is... I guess he's talented, but not in a way that I care about.
Yeah. Kind of pretentious, I think. Sometimes he is a talented guy. But.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he definitely is. But not my cup of tea. We talked about this before. He was sort of part of a whole movement of rock music in the early 2000s that I just could not get behind. I mean, his band was interesting. It was just him and his wife. That's kind of an interesting thing to do for a band, a two-person band. Isn't it weird that the other two-person band was called the Black Keys? It's almost like they did that in response to them. Well, if you're the White Stripes, we're the Black Keys. And we also don't need a bass player. Bass players are overrated. Ask the Doors. Of course, nowadays when the Doors play, they have a bass player, but the original incarnation, nope. Yeah, so just reading a bit about Cold Mountain. Yeah, it was also based on a novel, blah, blah, blah.
Switchblade Sisters.
The guy that directed Cold Mountain was British, and he's dead.
Oh.
He was the guy that directed The English Patient. He died in 2008. He was only 54. Yeah, so he also directed The Talented Mr. Ripley.
Mike Patton or Dan the Automator. Figure out what that is.
He died of some sort of hemorrhage. Man, that sounds like it was sudden. That doesn't sound like, he had cancer and then he died. This sounds like it happened out of the blue. Maybe there's more to it, but just looking at the Wikipedia article here. The director's last name is Anthony Minghella. He actually won Best Director for The English Patient, which is a movie I keep meaning to watch, but it's long, right? It's long. I'll watch it sometime, but Christ, it's long. That's considered one of the most overrated movies of the 90s anyway. Everybody likes to dump on the English Patient.
Oh, I've never seen it.
Everybody likes to dump on that movie. That it's long and boring and not actually good. It has the reputation of those movies. People say they like it, but they don't really like it. They want to sound smart or whatever, so they say they like it, but they don't really like it. It's kind of one of those movies.
Did you see the Seinfeld skit about that one or the show about that one?
Yeah, where it's you went to see the English Patient. You can't just make out the whole time during the English Patient. It's like better than making out during. No, that's Schindler's List. No, the English Patient was just everybody hated Elaine because she said she didn't like it, right?
Right. And
they're like, how could you not like the English Patient? She's just like, I just didn't like it. Yeah. Yeah, I was getting that mixed up with making out during Schindler's List. Now I think about it, that show mentions a few different movies of the 90s. It also mentions My Cousin Vinny. They also mention Weekend at Bernie's. So yeah, a few different movies get mentioned on Seinfeld. Elaine watching Weekend at Bernie's. Bernie is dead! What are you guys doing? How can anybody believe this? Suspension of disbelief.
That wasn't a Vincent pick. She was a big fan of the Vincent picks.
Oh, that's right. The kid that worked at the video store, yeah.
And she brought him like cigarettes and alcohol.
Yeah, she didn't know he was like a kid. Yeah. Yeah, and it's like his mom like confronts her. Yeah, it's coming back to me. Yeah.
Mike Patton, you know who that is?
No. We must have mentioned something that has Mike Patton.
Faith No More. I'm guessing he's the guy in Faith No More.
Oh man, I remember Faith No More. Epic. They had a song called Epic. Speaking of epics.
That's a good song.
Well, I'm sure that's true. And people know my reputation that I despise American Beauty.
Let's give it another shot.
Maybe I will, but I don't think it's gonna change. I mean, I really do. I haven't seen it in like 17 years, maybe. So I know I won't change my mind on it, but there are all sorts of stuff I forget about it because it's been so long. Mm-hmm. Thora Birch.
She was kind of in like an odd. She was kind of frumpy, when she later on was like a anorexic.
Yeah. She's really good at frumpy though. I mean, Ghost World. Easily. Like a really good adaptation of a comic.
Yeah, I've never seen it either, Brian.
It's worth seeing. I mean, I don't, like most people, I would say, like, the love story is really trite and annoying, but everything around it is really well done. I mean, I've always had a fascination with the Titanic, so it's nice to see, that mostly done right. Although I feel kind of bad that they played into this whole narrative that the White Star Line guy, Bruce Ismay, was like, we have to hurry and ignore everything. Like, there's no actual historical evidence that he did that. I feel bad. Like, there's a whole bunch of people that like have this belief that it was almost single-handedly like his fault. Like, he was greedy and he wanted them to like set the record for the crossing and he didn't care about safety. And I don't think that's really true. But anyway, I haven't seen the whole movie in a million years, but it's on TV a lot. I watch bits and pieces of it, but I mean,
I've seen enough. I know what it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's super. It's even all these years later, it holds up really well as far as how it looks. Really. I mean, it was a super expensive movie, and it shows up there. I mean, I think more people dislike the movie. It's not even the movie itself. Like, they can't stand that damn Celine Dion song, which I'm right there with you. I even like some Celine Dion songs. I just hate that one. Because, I mean, I was like 14 when that movie came out. So I remember being in junior high and like every girl in my class just loving the movie and being obsessed with Leo DiCaprio and that song getting played a lot. So, I mean, yeah, I was super annoyed by it, but at the time. But as I got older, I didn't care anymore. It's fine. I mean, a lot of the movies that define in the 90s don't hold up. But they can still be enjoyable. Because I think about like movies that were good in the 90s, and then I also think about movies that might not necessarily have been good, but were like really important. I mean, I mean, people love to point out that Scarlett Johansson's in that movie. Like, it doesn't fucking matter at all. It could have been anybody.
Yeah.
It is a good example, though, of how, when people talk about sometimes when people are younger, they look so different, and then it's kind of surprising when they get a bit older that they're really attractive. Like, Scarlett Johansson is definitely that. Like, if you see her, like, when she's, like, a teenager in movies, like, you probably don't know that she's going to become as beautiful as she is. Whereas, some girls they're pretty from an early age. It's no surprise that they're pretty as adults. Scarlett Johansson is definitely one of those people that kind of transformed. It's not like she was hideous when she was a teen. Of course not. But I think she did, change a lot, like, in a few years. Because if you see her in Ghost World, where she might be like, I don't know, 17 or 18 or something like that, she looks like a pretty average looking girl. And then a few years later, she's like considered like one of the most attractive women. Not my type, but I certainly can see it as attractive. I need to see Ghost World again too. I should own this comic. I still don't own it. There's a couple of like those really big, important comics that I still don't own. I don't own V for Vendetta either, even though I've read it several times. I don't own it. But anyway, go all over the place on that. But yeah, people really like to point out she's in the movie, but it's not like she's important. She's what's her name's friend, and she has some scenes with her. She's not, she's fine. She's fine. I guess people always just like to point it out because she, it's before she was a big star. But hell, I mean, wasn't she in like some ridiculous stuff as a kid? Like she's in like Home Alone 3, I think.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah. I can't believe that Black Widow movie's not out yet. I don't get what the holdup is. I mean, I know why there was a holdup before. There was a global pandemic, and I get that. I'm just thinking, isn't some of the stuff that got pushed back, can't we release it now? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing there. Does that even have a release date?
It does, but I think it's like the fall. I think it's pretty late in the year.
It's well over a year it was supposed to have come out, right?
Like the next Doctor Strange movie is coming out in like I think like November 2022 or something. Isn't that like why? Anyway, I guess I shouldn't complain because other people are going to complain that there's too many damn Marvel movies anyway. But there were no Marvel movies released in 2020. But there will be a couple in 2021, including, I think, Black Widow. It just got pushed back to a lot later in the year. It's not like I'm dying to see it. I don't love Black Widow. I'm just sort of in that mood because I watched The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, show. And Black Widow is, kind of the same type of thing, like espionage or whatever. But I think the next Marvel movie actually coming out might be the Shang-Chi movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I hate Poseidon Adventure. So cheesy. Mind-blowing? I mean,
people love that movie.
I love the movie too, but I mean, it's what's her name? Who's the main character? Thora Birch. Scarlett Johansson is her friend. And they have some scenes together. I definitely wouldn't think she's mind-blowing. She doesn't do much of anything. She's just there to like react to what's her name's doing. Like, because at first they're really good friends, and then as Thora Birch's character gets more weird and withdrawn and into the weird stuff she's in, she like starts resisting it because the whole thing is like they're unpopular, but they're friends, and they're gonna move in together after they graduate high school, and all sort of falls apart. But I mean, it's all centers on Thora Birch's character. Scarlett Johansson's character is just sort of reactionary. She's there to react to what Thora Birch does, and I guess she does a fine job. Definitely not mind-blowing to me. I don't buy her in a lot of movies either. I don't even really buy her as Black Widow. I mean, she does not really physically resemble the character too much in the comics. She never attempted a Russian accent. I know I've seen her in a lot of movies, and it was downright distracting that she's the mom in Jojo Rabbit. I'm not saying Scarlett Johansson can't play a mom. I'm just saying, why in that movie of all movies? It felt really distracting. She married like Colin Jost, or they're gonna get married. I have no opinion on that. Just putting it out there. Trying to think about more British crime.
Yeah, too many Marvel movies. Really, the stuff they've got in the pipeline is kind of odd too. The stuff they've got coming out.
Well, I mean, Eternals is pretty odd. Like, people keep trying to. Oh, isn't mind blowing? Ah, that makes a lot more sense. You blew my mind because I was like, mind blowing. What? But
those are all good ones.
Those are all good ones for sure.
I didn't realize the History of Violence was a comic.
Yep. I think I told you before. You forgot.
Yeah, you probably did tell me
because we definitely talked about it. But I mean, there's been Marvel movies since what, like 1998. So obviously, there's going to be a lot of them. But yeah, I think the one that perplexes me the most is Eternals. Like, Eternals is never even popular as a comic, so trying to force it into a movie seems ridiculous. Plus, since Eternals is so wrapped up with, like, the Celestials, all I can imagine is, like, the first 15 minutes of that movie is just going to be, like, somebody doing, like, a ton of exposition. Because, yeah. Not to take us down that rabbit hole of my Marvel knowledge, but basically everything that has happened in the Marvel world has to do with this race of alien beings that are almost like gods called the Celestials. Like, everything that's happened on Earth is part of their design. So, yeah. And the Eternals is the series that deals the most directly with that. So I can just imagine that, like, so much of that movie is just going to be like exposition, them explaining, like, at the dawn of time, you know. I'm not saying that's not interesting. I'm just saying, I don't know. The Eternals have been around since, like, the early 70s or late 60s, and yet it's never, you know, managed to, like, consistently have a long series. I think 19 issues is the longest a series has ever gone. So it just seems like they're just trying to force something. And I'm not saying you can't take a somewhat unpopular comic and make it a good movie, because, I mean, that's what they did with Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Guardians of the Galaxy was kind of the same thing. It never had sustained runs. The team was constantly changed and everything, but then they made a movie, it became really popular, and now it is a popular comic. So maybe that's their thinking. Maybe we can finally get a popular Eternals comic if people like the movie. So I get it. But yeah. That's the one that weirds me out. I love the idea of a Shang-Chi movie. He's one of my favorite characters. So it's like Shang-Chi, a Doctor Strange sequel eventually, although not this year. Black Widow movie. Eternals is in the pipeline. I've heard Morbius might be in the pipeline. I don't know.
They're doing the new Blade movie, and then they'll probably do a Morbius movie, and then they'll probably cross over, I guess.
I mean, that makes sense. They've crossed over plenty in the comic. They fought together and against each other, so that makes sense.
Yeah, they've talked about this new Venom thing. I think Spider-Man's going to be in one of the Venom movies coming up.
That would be good, because otherwise I do not give a shit. Like, I know there's a new preview for the new Venom, and I just don't care. Yeah. Some things I just can't get past, as I've said before. I don't mean to be a jerk, because there's definitely good things in that movie. It's the same thing, like, I can't get past Ben Affleck as Batman. I don't care how well the script is written or what happens. It's Ben Affleck as Batman. I can't get past it. It's the same thing with Venom. I can't get past a Venom that has an origin that has nothing to do with Spider-Man. It makes no sense to me, and I can't accept it.
I know.
Yeah. Those are all great ones. I'm totally in agreement with you, Jacob.
I think when they made the first Venom, I think that was still kind of up in the air, like with Spider-Man.
Yeah. I realized it wasn't like their choice. It was a bunch of right stuff between Sony and Marvel and all that shit. I know. And I'm saying, to me, you just don't go ahead with it if you can't do it that way. But also, I realize, I don't know. I don't know what I realize.
Well, you know, compared to Spider-Man 3, the Tobey Maguire, like, they did get the design of Venom right, I think. It does look like Venom should look.
Yeah, except they're constantly peeling it back to show Topher Grace's face, which is annoying. Yeah. But, I mean, the way I would have done a Venom movie is I wouldn't have bothered with any origin. I would have just been like, okay, here's Eddie Brock, and Spider-Man. He got it from I would mention that he got it from Spider-Man and stuff. But no, they have to do an origin story, and they have to make it separate from Spider-Man, and that's where I check out.
No origin story. That's sacrilege.
I know. I mean, can't we just jump in with some of these characters? Apparently not. I guess I'm indifferent to Jennifer Lawrence. I don't know if I've ever seen her do anything I liked.
Mother. She was great in Mother.
I hate that movie. You know I do. I guess there's nothing wrong with her performance, but I hate that movie. She do anything I like? Not really. I mean, her big thing is the Hunger Game movies. I've seen the first one, and then I never watched the rest.
What was the one we did on the show where she's like the poor girl?
Oh, right. Yes, you're right. Winter's Bone.
That's it.
You're right. We liked her in that. She was good in that. That's like near the beginning of her career too. She's pretty young in that movie. So I mean, yeah, I think she has acting ability. She just maybe doesn't use it all the time. Because she's good in that movie, Winter's Bone. I mean, maybe it's not like an award-winning performance or anything, but I remember we did praise her performance. I thought it was pretty good. So that is something positive about Jennifer Lawrence. So yeah, the Hunger Games is her big claim to fame, and many years after it came out, I finally said, "Okay, I'll watch the first one." I watched the first one. I was like, "Nope, really stupid. Not watching the rest of this." So I know they made like 3 or 4 sequels, but
yeah.
I've talked about this before too. Talking about miscasting. Oh my God! Once again, Woody Harrelson. I never read any of those books because I don't give a shit about them. But even I know that once again, Woody Harrelson is wildly miscast. He just sticks out like such a sore thumb in that movie. It is ridiculous. He might as well have a sign pointing at him that says "Actor Woody Harrelson." It is insanity. Like, I found him stick out in movies before because I don't like him in, say, that Star Wars movie. I can't stand him in a Star Wars movie.
Yeah,
he's in the Han Solo movie. It's even worse. It's funny because, Star Wars is something I love and know intimately, and I think he doesn't fit. I don't know anything about Hunger Games, and I think it's stupid, and he still doesn't fit. It's ridiculous. I've never seen Silver Linings Playbook. I've heard that it's kind of hand waves like some of the mental health stuff, and I don't like that.
I'm not even aware of that, but
I guess they kind of make it seem like things like, I don't know, depression or stuff. It's like can be quirky or fun. I don't know. Somebody I know said something like that to me, and I was like, good enough. I don't know.
It's kind of a stretch, but
anyway, I'm never gonna watch Silver Linings Playbook.
Ugh, the beaver.
Yeah, Mel Gibson with a sock puppet.
I'm not watching that.
Anyway, we should try to say something more about Rise of the Foot Soldier.
Yeah, I mean, I like it.
I like it, but I guess I just feel like the narrative loses a bit of coherency in the second half. It's not even that there's anything wrong with what's done. I felt like they need to fill in some stuff and have some extra scenes, particularly Mickey. My big thing is Mickey. I feel like Mickey just comes in really late, and then you're kind of like shocked that he turns out to be so pivotal and important. It's like, why weren't we seeing this guy all along? Is kind of how I felt. That's sort of my main problem with the movie. But yeah, as far as like, it's an interesting story. I really like the main guy in the role. He's really believable as that character. I think it has some really sneaky kind of underrated humor in it that's funny. Some of the dialogue. And as we said, and we're going to talk about this as we do other movies in the series, you just appreciate sort of getting a window into that world a little bit different from some of the other crime movies you see, like crime movies set in America or even some of the Italian type stuff. It's good to see sort of that. See a bit of the football culture stuff. I mean, it's not that important. It's just sort of using an introduction. It's his stepping stone into the criminal world. But it's cool. His team was West Ham, I believe. I think they called the Manchester ones like Manx or something. It's funny. You fucking Mank.
Yeah, it seems like it really just kind of glamorizes, violence and crime. But then, it does take you through the journey.
Right, but it
that he
shows
goes
real.
through.
Yeah, it shows real consequences though too, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean that sort of is the story, right? Of like criminals. It's like, oh, fast, easy money, just impose my will on people, use violence, get my way. But there's always a price. There's always a toll that it takes on you. But yeah, we were talking about you say like how it doesn't work. He's just like, oh, it's complete rubbish. I think it's a dud. I don't feel nothing. And he's just like, but I gotta dance. Yeah. And then he's telling his friend that he loves him.
Yeah, I like Sin City a lot.
I like Sin City a lot too. And I mean, it helps that, Frank Miller was practically co-director on that film. I've shown it before. I won't go drag it. But if you take the comic, I remember like watching the movie. You could like pause the movie and then hold the comic up to it. And it's like the exact same thing. Like, I love that. Yeah, I think really good casting all throughout. They did a really great job of getting actors that fit in that world. I remember when we talked about the only problem with the sequel was they waited so long to make the sequel, which sucked. But like, what's his name? Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I thought perfect for that world. Just a great actor to put into that world. So, yeah, the second one is good. It just can't have the same impact as the first one. Is really the thing. And Jessica Alba, like more than 10 years later, still looks amazing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, definitely fun.
Frank Miller, I don't know. It probably helps if you've got a couple of competent directors, there beside you, because look at The Spirit.
The Spirit's one of the worst things I've ever seen in my entire life. Awful. And I mean it. It is unwatchable. You can't even watch it for how bad it is. It hurts. It fucking hurts. Yeah, Frank Miller is one of those guys, as I've said, like I really love like, his style and his imagination, but he needs something to like kind of ground him a little bit, or he'll just go off the rails. Which is like a lot of people, like you can say that about like David Lynch, for instance. Like David Lynch is great when he's on, but sometimes he goes too far. I know that's pretty different from Frank Miller, but you know what I mean. Sometimes somebody has like a definitive style that's really good, but sometimes they can just go overboard with it a bit. Yeah. It's funny too because Ava Green is also in 300, which is directed by Frank Miller. Or is that directed by him? But anyway, it's based, of course, on his very interesting comic. What's funny is I've still never seen the second 300, but it's like on my list on like Prime or something. Maybe I'll finally see it. I don't think that's based on a comic at all. I think it's just a made-up script.
No, he's only directed Sin City 1 and 2 in The Spirit.
Yeah. And I mean, he wasn't the main director in Sin City. It was like Robert Rodriguez, right? Robert Rodriguez was the main director.
Right.
Actually, he's not even credited as director of Sin City 1, and that's one of the and Robert Rodriguez like quit the Directors Guild over it because they were saying they couldn't give him credit, and he's just like, well, not giving him credit as director is bullshit, and he quit. So yeah, mad respect for Robert Rodriguez.
So there's something interesting. There's a Sin City series that's been announced.
See, that could work as a series. But you think they would have the same look? Like, because that's what we've gotten used to, right? Like, I think it would almost be like, I don't think there would be anything wrong with doing it a different way, but it would almost be jarring because we're so used to that look, right? That sort of everything's green screen, black and white with color here and there. Like, I kind of want them to keep it the same, but at the same time, if they want, don't bite me. My cat just bit me for touching her foot. So I touched your foot. Big deal.
So we're probably going to be doing maybe three more of these, 2 or 3 more.
Yeah, 2 or 3 more. We want to do at least 4. Could make it 5.
And I don't know if we've talked about Harry Brown. We definitely talked about Get Carter with Michael Caine.
Yeah, that's also Michael Caine. I really like Harry Brown. It's funny. Certain movies is the same movie over and over again, but I still like it. Harry Brown's one of them. Like Harry Brown is like the same movie as like that Jodie Foster movie.
Taxi Driver.
Whatever.
Contact.
The something one, is it? The
Brave one?
The Brave one. They're like pretty much the same movie, but they're both good. I like both of them. But of course, the Harry Brown one has the British angle to it. Yeah, I like that movie a lot. But I probably would not do it on here because it's even more straightforward than this movie. We'd be done talking in like a half hour.
Oh, that's the one that's not too old. Yeah, I saw that one. That's just 2009.
Yeah, he's already an old guy in it. Harry Brown. Enjoyable movie. But
Oh yeah, Death Wish remake.
yeah, same sort of thing. Sort of like an ordinary guy, like gets a gun and takes justice into his own hands because of blah blah blah. But satisfying movie.
Yeah, you mentioned the Crying Game
Oh,
earlier.
I did not know that. But yeah, I just watched the Crying Game again. Still holds up pretty well. And yeah, I like the Brave one.
And I haven't
Although,
seen Doom
again, it's not much
Patrol.
of
It looks wild. I don't like the way Brandon Fraser looks.
Doom Patrol is not something I ever cared that much about. I respect it for being different and everything, and I don't know. I'd like to think I don't just like mainstream comic type stuff, but Doom Patrol it just never clicked for me, so I don't care about the series. I only saw it because there was an episode of. It's funny because I don't like it, but the Titan show like crossed over for an episode. We don't have time for him to get into it, but I watch the Titan show because I can't. I don't like it. I watch it because it's so bad. That's why I watch it. Like I think almost everything about it is wrong and bad, but it kind of fascinates me, so I watched it. So that's how I saw the Doom Patrol stuff because they had a whole episode that just where they meet those characters. I'm sure it's fine for I don't know. DC stuff is so all over the place, right? Like, does anybody remember that there's like a like a Challenger? No, it's not Challengers of the Unknown. It's the other guys. What's that other team? Oh, DC Legends of Tomorrow. Like, do people remember that there's a Legends of Tomorrow show?
Where did this play? Where did Doom Patrol? What was that on?
That's a good question. Because Titans for me was on Netflix, but Doom Patrol wasn't. So I don't know.
HBO, but I thought it was on.
I don't think it's on HBO.
You remember when the Swamp Thing show was out?
Yes.
What was that on?
For me, that was on like Space or maybe even Showcase. Might have been Showtime for you, because that's what Showcase is for us. It was only like 5 episodes and they canceled it.
It wasn't great. I wanted it to be great, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I wanted it to be great. I only saw 1 episode. I mean, that has such potential to be a good show, so it's really too bad.
Yeah. I stuck with it because someone had told me it was good, but this person doesn't have good taste. So.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Bob Hoskins. As I said when we announced this series, I said we'll have to do something with Bob Hoskins in it. So it could be Mona Lisa.
Was Steel a DC movie? I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, I mean technically it was based on that Steel, the guy with the suit, but of course, it had pretty much nothing to do with anything. It's almost the same thing as me complaining about a Venom movie that had nothing to do with Spider-Man. It's like the idea of making a Steel movie that didn't have anything to do with Superman, that doesn't make sense to me. Because like Steel basically became Steel because it was part of the Death of Superman storyline. He wanted to help fill the void after Superman died. So, and that's why he had an emblem that looked kind of like Superman's emblem. He wasn't trying to like impersonate him. He was just trying to like pay tribute to his legacy. So the idea of like making a Steel movie and like Superman doesn't even exist or get mentioned doesn't make sense to me. It's stupid. I kind of have a soft spot for the Constantine movie. I know it's not good. I guess it's just, love for Keanu. Because, I mean, what the hell are you doing with Keanu Reeves as Constantine? Speaking of British stuff, like Constantine's a super British character. And it's like, no, I'll just get Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
It's not good. It's definitely
wanted to like it.
Yeah. That's another comic I wish I had more of, Hellblazer. Especially the original run. The original run's so good. That Vertigo stuff from the late 80s, early 90s. That's when DC was doing it right. Shocking the world. Stuff like Sandman.
Yeah. We definitely talked about this one. Let me try to do that one on here.
Yeah, that's what he said. That's the one I kind of most want to do in a way. It's just hard to find. But I might just try to watch it online somewhere on some site. But yeah, I'm definitely going to watch the sequel to this movie too, since it's on there, and see what that's like. I don't know how much it diverges from reality at the point. The third one doesn't have anything to do with him, and they focus on other characters. And there's like still like an upcoming one that I think is going to be based on Pat. Look here, make sure I'm. Yeah, so this movie came out in 2007. It's based on his life. Part 2, Reign of the General, came out in, actually a lot longer, 2015. And Part 3, The Pat Tate Story, came out in 2017. Something called Marbella came out in 2019. And there's an upcoming one based on Tony called The Tony Tucker Story, which is going to come out sometime this year. So the Pat one's already out. It is the same actor, Craig Fairbrass. It is the same actor. And the guy that plays Tony is in it too. But Carlton Leach is not in it. So the third one and the fifth one are both prequels, like origin stories. What's Marbella? Marbella is some sort of sequel to 3. Fresh out of prison, Pat Tate steps right back into his Essex nightclub business. Well, the money is good. He can't stop brooding about the man who put him away. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. It's an interesting saga. Tony really deserved his own movie. Well, I mean, Pat got 2 movies, so I guess Tony can get at least one. I know. That's what I want to do on the Final Dungeon. I want to do a live commentary of Super Mario Brothers. Mm-hmm. That's definitely the next live commentary I want to do on our video game channel.
Yeah, I'm ready, man.
I don't know. This gaming is super involved, so that might stand for something. I will say that Good Omens was pretty good. So
people love, what is it, Gods and Demons or whatever that other one he's got?
Oh, yeah. I'm not really a fan. American Gods.
American Gods, that's it.
I'm not really a fan of that book. Like, I own the book. It's fine. It's not really for me. I like Good Omens a lot better.
My daughter's reading Coraline right now.
Yeah, it's an awesome book.
She's a big fan of the movie.
And it's a pretty good movie, too. I was terrified of that movie when it came out because I thought it was going to suck because I was a big fan of the book and I was like, oh, this is going to suck. But it's a really good movie.
That's a competent team that did that.
That's probably like what Neil Gaiman gets hounded about the most is people to ask him, are you going to write a sequel to Coraline? Please write a sequel to Coraline. Like people never see, like I follow him on Twitter and stuff and people are always bugging him about that.
Did you ever see Box Trolls?
No, I know what it is. And it was one of those movies I kind of meant to watch and just kind of forgot about. Animated movie, yeah.
I just respect the hell out of the...
They're the same people that did Coraline?
Stop motion, yeah. I believe so.
That's cool.
Because just the time it takes to do, a feature film like that.
Yeah, Coraline's a big influence on my writing. There are a couple books that are, scary but for kids things that have influenced a couple stories I've written. The big one is Coraline, and the other one is actually by oh shit, why can't I remember anybody's names anymore? Oh my god, the guy that did Hellraiser.
Doug Bradley? Oh, Clive Barker.
Clive Barker did a book called The Thief of Always, which is kind of like a kid's book, but like with a dark slant like Coraline. Like those two books are both huge influences on my writing, at least when I write that way, because I've written a few stories that are kind of the same thing. Like they're like dark and scary, but they could be for kids. I don't think so, but Paranorman is a pretty solid, underrated movie. That's turned into a Halloween tradition for me. I've started watching that around Halloween. I actually did see that in theaters too. The trailer won me over because it had that Season of the Witch song in it, which I really enjoy. I liked how they used it. But yeah, it's a solid, underrated movie. Kind of a shout out to like sort of 50s B movies. And I know a lot of horror movies do that, but especially in the 80s. The 80s was all about like remaking or homaging 50s horror B movies, but it doesn't mean you can't still do it. But yeah, it's a good movie. I don't know though if it has anything to do with Coraline. I know it's the same kind of animation. But The Thief of Always, like, where the hell is that movie? I think that's been in production hell for like 20 some years. Would be a good movie. They also made it into a comic too. I have the comic too. So there's a book and a comic. But The Thief of Always would be really good. I'm sure it's been in production hell because like most Clive Barker properties, people are like, let's get a movie out of it. In fact, let's make movies like 17 degrees removed from the original concept, but we'll still slap his name on it, It's like Hellraiser 15. It's like this has nothing to do with anything Clive Barker ever did at this point, but we still have the name, damn it.
Yeah.
It's not always a bad thing. Because, I mean, the Candyman story is a meh kind of story. They really change it a lot for the movie, but for the better. Like, I'm not saying like they fix it. I'm just saying they take a concept and expand it and change it and make a good movie out of it. Where the hell's that remake anyway? Wasn't there a remake?
It's coming.
What happened to it? Still coming. Man, talking about these delays. Yeah, I'm almost positive, Jacob. I think my copy says like soon to be a major motion picture on it. And that copy is from like 1998 or something. So, another thing with Barker got all caught up in his Aberrat series. I think is really what slowed everything down. That bothers me because I only own the second book in that series, and they don't seem to make the ones that have the artwork in them anymore. Because Aberrat was a series of books he wrote that also had artwork, but it seemed like after a while, it seems like now the only copies that are in print don't have the artwork, and that bothers me. Like, I want my things to match up. I'll have to look into that. But yeah, Thief of Always is a really, really cool book, really solid book.
Looks like Candyman is set to be released in August.
Okay, that's not too bad.
So, you remember it was around like October. They were like, okay, we're not going to release the Halloween movie. We're going to release Candyman. Then they scrapped that too. Like, nah.
Yeah.
Movie's too good.
Clearly.
Too good.
So is Halloween Kills going to come out this fall or summer?
I think it's set for Halloween, as far as I know.
Okay.
Or for our October release.
I guess most people I know didn't like Halloween, but I liked most of it. I mean, again, I wasn't thrilled about them just throwing all this stuff out, and but you have to get over it. It'd be nice if this ended it, though. I don't want to see any more Halloween movies after that.
Well, they may have already finished the other one. Halloween Kills and Halloween.
There's a third that was already planned.
Halloween
So was like a planned trilogy? Is that how they did it?
I don't know. Apparently, this one's it's going to be really woke.
How do you do a woke slasher?
I don't know. They did it with that Black Christmas remake.
I mean, I watched that. That's not really woke. It's just kind of junk.
Isn't it all about like how men are the enemy and stuff? And
well, I mean, I guess kind of. I didn't really think about it that way. I guess some people will in today's culture, right? They'll be like, yes, of course. So yeah, I guess. I mean, it just sucks. Like, it wouldn't matter what the plot was. It sucks.
Right. Yeah, I'm not going to watch it. I think that script wasn't. They just slapped Black Christmas on it.
Yeah, I mean,
with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, yeah, I got the Books of Blood. They're good.
They did a Fantasy Island movie, for God's sakes.
And they turned that into like horror, right? That's like partially horror, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing horror about Fantasy Island. I never watched the show, but I know what it was. It was not horror.
It was like family, wasn't it? Like family TV.
It was like a family, like it was literally had as a title. It was like a happy fantasy. It's like have fun in the 70s, people.
You want me to to spoil that movie for you?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna spoil Fantasy Island, guys. At the end,
it was all the midget little person guy. He did it all.
There is no little person in the film, but it is an Asian guy. And at the end of the film, he's got to stay on the island, and he reveals that he has a tattoo of the word tattoo. So he is tattoo.
That is okay. He has a tattoo.
He has to stay there because his like friend died or something like that. So he has to stay on the island, or else he'll never get to see the friend again. Some shit like that.
Okay.
Anyway, sure. The ending is stupid.
Yeah, I'm never gonna watch it, so I don't care. I don't care if you spoil it. Okay, let's wrap up. We've done a lot of rambling today because we didn't have a lot of meat to go with. Although, again, this is a solid movie, and I'm glad I saw it, and I'm interested in the sequels. But as we said, it's a pretty straightforward sort of story. It's not like it's full of symbolism or themes or imagery or things like that to really talk about. It's definitely a good performance by that actor. And the other actors, too. They're good at being, like, really crazy. Especially the Pat guy. I mean, you really buy him as, like, this super violent lunatic. And he does have his funny moments, like when they're in the hospital with the hooker.
Yeah.
They're just like, they're doing like blow, like literally like off the hospital bed.
Oh, man.
Like, we don't care what we do.
Yeah. I'll have to check this podcast out.
Yeah. Love Edgar Wright. And Quentin Tarantino's pretty cool. I mean, not exactly a big fan, but I definitely like him. But big fan of Edgar Wright. Tarantino is great to talk about film because he just loves everything. Like, he's never said anything like bad about a movie. He'll just be like, "Did you see this like super obscure Italian movie from the '60s? I love it. It's amazing."
Yeah.
Positivity is a good thing. The second one. I don't know if it's the same director for the second one, Reign of the General. There isn't information. The Wikipedia page is like for the movie just has like a small bit and then it just mentions the other movies. They're all on the same page. But at least it is the same cast. Like Craig Fairbrass, Terry Strome, Roland Manukin, Billy Murray. Oh, okay. So that's interesting. So Billy Murray is the guy that plays Mickey. And I complained about how he's kind of introduced late. We don't know enough about him. Well, apparently he's in the third movie and the upcoming fifth movie, the Tony Tucker story. So we would get a little bit more about him, I guess, there. Although if it's a prequel, I mean, that guy's already pretty old. I don't know if they're going to pull that off, but yeah, I've heard of the robbery. But yeah, I will definitely watch at least the next one. The third one might be on there. I'm not sure. I don't know if I really want to see a movie all about Pat. He's such a hateful bastard. I mean, the one thing that's good about this guy is, like, even though he's a violent criminal who's done bad things, he eventually becomes fairly sympathetic, as we see. He, like, starts to wise up and really ease off on all that. And yeah. I guess my two main problems were the same thing. Is like, I feel like Mickey's introduced too late. And also, I felt like because of we only really saw the extreme bad stuff, I felt like it seemed weird to me to see Carlton like crying and so upset that those three get killed. Because it seemed to me that they were all assholes to him too. I know he has the conversation with Tony right before him, where Tony's like, "When we do this job, I'm going to give you 30 grand myself because you never asked me for anything, and I know you're my real friend." So they do have that one moment. But the rest of the time, you don't really see him and Tony like bonding or having fun or anything. It's just mostly either Tony restraining him, like we're saying, "Don't go to war with the Turks," or him later telling Tony that he's going too far, or saying, "Hey, you and Pat and what's his name, you're going crazy." Like we don't get a real feel of a friendship between him and Tony. So at the end, when he's like flipping out and crying and stuff, you're just like, I don't know why he's so upset. But yeah. So I feel like there's some extra stuff that they could have maybe put in that would have helped smooth that out, make it seem a little, I don't know, more believable or something. I'm not saying I don't buy it. I'm just saying, oh, I wish they'd shown more so I could understand this better. Like, I wouldn't say the movie has holes, but it definitely has some places that could be filled out a little more, I guess. But
Sure.
definitely a really, really good feel, and it is an interesting story with interesting characters, well acted, blah, blah, blah. Definitely glad I saw it.
Yeah. Very cool. Lots of love for
But,
Sexy Beast.
yeah, we're going to figure out what the next one is going to be. As we said, there's a few that we hope to do. I'd love to do the Long Good Friday. Get Carter is a possibility, and definitely a couple other got mentioned too. As we said, we're going to do 2, maybe even 3 more of these. So that remains. So there's some different possibilities, and we're going to figure that out as we go. Yeah, we knew this one was not particularly complex or anything, but I don't know. I just hadn't seen it and then I had the opportunity to see it. I thought this would be a good one to do. So, yeah, we know we didn't get particularly in depth on this one, but we got to blab about some other stuff, which is good because we didn't get to do a show last week. So
it's kind of to the point, It's not a lot of talking points in there.
Right. It's one man's journey type thing. Blah blah blah. And a look into a very interesting, violent world. So I definitely appreciate it for those merits. So yeah, we can wrap. We no need to make this overly long, but hopefully we'll be able to get a show together next week. Last week kind of fell apart on us, mostly my fault. But yeah, our intention is to definitely get right back to this and keep this series going because we definitely have 2 or 3 more to go. So yeah, no point looking beyond that. We're in the midst of British crime, so we'll be coming at you soon with another British crime film. And when we figure out what that is, we'll try to let you know. Absolutely. So thanks a lot for watching and being with us, and thanks for the comments and stuff and giving us some extra talking points because we ran out of some. So it's always good to have stuff to what's the word I'm looking for? Engage with, bounce back on. So thanks a lot, guys. So we'll see you next time. Peace.
Thanks for watching.